There is a man in Zimbabwe who burns. Not in the way you're imagining. Not in any way that makes sense. He feels the flames. His skin blisters and chars. But when he screams for help, when he begs those around him to pour water on the fire consuming him, they see nothing at all. Only a man in agony, burning from something invisible. This is the story of Methuseli Moyo and the flames that no one else can see. In February of 2025, something changed in Moyo's home, something that would burn through his life, quite literally, while leaving the world around him untouched. $20,000, reduced to ash, while the drawer it sat in remained perfectly intact, while the papers beside it didn't so much as yellow at the edges. Fire that chooses what it burns. Fire that no one can see. Fire that seems to follow one man, and one man alone. Stay with me. The details only get stranger from here. Methuseli Moyo is not a mystic. He is not prone to superstition or flights of fancy. He is a seasoned journalist, trained to question, to verify, to demand evidence before belief. He is also an educator at Zimbabwe's National University of Science and Technology, a man who has spent his career dealing in facts, in the observable, in the provable. Science. Technology. These are the words in the name of the institution where he teaches. And yet what began happening to him in early 2025 belongs to neither discipline. Fire poltergeist phenomena have been documented throughout history. Spontaneous fires with no apparent natural cause, appearing in homes, following individuals, defying investigation. But most of those cases share something in common. Witnesses can see the flames. They can point to where the fire started. They can describe its color, its heat, its spread. Moyo's case is different. The flames that burn him exist in a space between perception and reality. Visible only through their aftermath, only through the scars they leave behind. In Zimbabwe, as in much of Africa, supernatural explanations carry significant cultural weight. Ancestral spirits, witchcraft, forces that operate beyond Western frameworks of understanding. But Moyo's professional background makes him an unusual witness. He approaches his own torment with the analytical eye of a journalist. Documenting, questioning, trying to understand. What he has found is not understanding, only more questions and more burns. The mysterious fires began occurring at Moyo's home 6 weeks before his April 2025 interview with international media. That places the first incident sometime in late February. At first, the fires seemed random. A sleeve of a formal shirt, suddenly singed. The corner of a document, inexplicably charred. Strange, but perhaps explainable. Then they escalated. Important papers destroyed. Not just any papers, documents that mattered. As if the fire knew what to target. 2 couches were destroyed by flames that left no logical point of origin. No faulty wiring. No stray ember. No explanation that satisfied the rules of how fire is supposed to work. But it was the money that made Moyo speak publicly. $20,000 American dollars. His savings, reduced to gray ash while everything around it remained perfectly preserved. Think about that for a moment. Fire hot enough to completely incinerate $20,000 in paper currency. Yet the wooden drawer containing the money showed no damage whatsoever. The papers stored beside the cash, untouched. Not a single yellow edge, not a curl from heat. As if the fire had been given specific instructions about what to consume. Moyo has described being burned while those around him cannot see any flames. He feels them. His skin registers their heat. The pain is real and immediate. In his own words, I will be burning, but people around me can't see the flames. I just shout for them to pour water on me. He continued. Only afterwards the burns tell a story of what I have just been through. The evidence arrives after the event, when the invisible becomes violently visible. Those who witness these episodes see a man in distress, screaming about fire that isn't there. Then they see the burns appear on his skin, blisters rising from nothing visible. The burns on his body are visible only after the invisible fire has passed. Real wounds, real damage, from flames that exist in some space others cannot perceive. Moyo's formal clothes, the professional attire of a university lecturer, have been particularly targeted. Suits and dress shirts burned while casual clothing remains untouched. This selectivity extends beyond clothing. Important documents destroyed. Savings eliminated. Items of professional and financial significance reduced to nothing. By March 2025, the fires had increased in both frequency and destruction. What began as isolated incidents became a constant presence in Moyo's life. The pattern, if it can be called a pattern, seemed almost deliberately cruel. Each fire took something that mattered. Each invisible flame left its mark. In April 2025, Moyo made the decision to speak publicly about his experiences, a journalist choosing to become the story. Knowing how it would sound, knowing the skepticism he would face, his story gained international attention. News outlets from multiple continents picked up the account of the professor and his invisible flames. Coast to Coast AM, the long-running American radio program dedicated to unexplained phenomena, covered his case. The story had crossed from local curiosity to global mystery. What makes Moyo's case stand out in the annals of fire poltergeist phenomena is precisely his credibility. This is not a claim from an anonymous source or a rural villager unfamiliar with technology. This is a seasoned journalist, an educator at a university, literally named for science and technology. A man whose profession demands evidence and verification. The physical evidence supports his account. Burns documented on his body. Property destruction confirmed. The ash that was once $20,000. Witnessed by others. Skeptics have suggested fraud or psychological factors, but the visible burns and documented property destruction prove difficult to dismiss as mere delusion or deception. How does one fake burns that appear in real time before witnesses? How does one secretly destroy $20,000 of one's own money as part of an elaborate hoax? The financial motive for fraud runs backwards in this case. Moyo lost substantial savings. He gained only attention, and the kind of attention that damages academic credibility. Fire poltergeist cases, while rare, have been documented across cultures and time periods. The phenomenon appears in European, Asian, African, and American records spanning centuries. In paranormal literature, such targeted phenomena are sometimes attributed to psychokinetic energy, the unconscious projection of emotional distress into physical manifestation. Others point to spiritual attack, intentional harm directed through supernatural means. In many African cultures, this falls under the umbrella of witchcraft or ancestral displeasure. Moyo himself has not publicly committed to any single explanation. The journalist in him seems to resist easy answers, even as the evidence of impossible fires accumulates on his own body. The case raises uncomfortable questions about what we consider credible witnesses to supernatural events. Does education inoculate against the unexplainable? Clearly not. Does professional credibility make claims of the impossible more believable? Or does it simply make them harder to dismiss without proper investigation? Some critics argue that discussing cases like Moyo's perpetuates harmful superstitions. They worry about the cultural impact of validating supernatural explanations. Others counter that dismissing such cases reflects Western cultural bias, an assumption that only certain frameworks of understanding deserve consideration. The truth, as is often the case, likely lies somewhere more complicated. Moyo is burning. The burns are real. the cause remains genuinely unexplained. As of early 2025, the fires continue. Moyo remains at his post at the university, teaching while bearing scars from flames that exist in some dimension beyond ordinary perception. He has not fled. He has not abandoned his life. He continues to document what happens to him. The journalist still working the most personal story of his career. What do we make of a case like this? Perhaps the first lesson is humility. The world contains phenomena that resist our frameworks of explanation. Science has illuminated much of what once seemed supernatural. But science is a process, not a completed project. Unexplained does not mean unexplainable. It simply means not yet explained. And until explanation arrives, phenomena like Moyo's fires exist in that uncomfortable space between knowledge and mystery. The case also demonstrates that unexplained phenomena can disrupt the lives of educated, professional individuals. The strange does not discriminate by credential. Moyo's willingness to speak publicly, knowing the professional risk, suggests the experiences have become too significant to hide, too real to dismiss as private delusion. For those who study paranormal phenomena, cases with credible witnesses and physical evidence are particularly valuable. Regardless of ultimate explanation, they provide data points. They offer something to investigate. They push against the boundaries of what we accept as possible. And sometimes, those boundaries move. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of Moyo's case is its ongoing nature. This is not a historical account. It is happening now, as you listen to these words. If you find yourself experiencing unexplained phenomena, document everything. Photographs, written accounts with dates and times, witness statements when possible. Seek medical attention for any injuries. Physical evidence, like burns, should be properly documented by professionals. This creates an objective record that cannot be easily dismissed. Consider consulting both conventional and unconventional experts. The mystery may yield to investigation, or it may not. Either way, multiple perspectives have value. Above all, trust your experience while remaining open to explanation. The unexplained is not the same as the imaginary. What happens to you is real, even if others cannot see it. Somewhere in Zimbabwe, a professor is teaching classes between episodes of invisible fire. His students learn about science and technology. He learns that neither explains what happens to him. $20,000 turn to ash. Burns that appear from nowhere. Flames that only one man can feel. This is not a story with an ending. Not yet. The fires continue. The mystery deepens. And Methuseli Moyo waits for the next invisible flame, documenting what science cannot yet explain. Storm stories don't have endings. They have witnesses. Until next time, stay in the light. Or at least, stay where others can see you burning.